Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Spiritist Talk series promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Today we have a very special guest with us, our dear Alvaro Mordechai, that will discuss about NOSSOS, and it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be an incredible talk for us to learn a little bit more about Noah and to learn about the scriptures that Alvaro has the ability to talk to us so well. So now let us welcome Alvaro. Alvaro Mordechai. Hello, my godson. How are you doing today?
Hello, hello to everyone. Hello, Ju. It's really nice to be here. It's a great honor, a great pleasure, and I'm happy to be talking about the Old Testament with the light of the Spiritism on it.
Thank you, Alvaro. So before we continue, I would like to start with our prayer, and then I'm going to formally introduce Alvaro, and then he's going to be giving the talk to us. So I ask everyone to join me in my thoughts, in our thoughts and hearts, always with gratitude for all the blessings we have, for all these opportunities that we have been having, for all the speakers that have been enlightening us throughout these years. And especially, we ask today for guidance, inspiration, and assistance to Alvaro as well, so that he can talk to us as he always does with his heart. And we ask for the blessings of each and every one that is following us in our series of talks, and asking the good spirits for protection. Okay, so let me introduce Alvaro to you. Alvaro Mordechai is a spiritist to speak with talks based on his studies of the Old Testament. He speaks fluently Hebrew, among other languages. He studied and learned Jewish laws and customs through years of living in Jerusalem. He aims to combine the knowledge of the interpretation of the Bible's sacred texts through the wisdom of the Jewish people with the gospel of Jesus under the light of Spiritism. He gives talks and conferences in Brazil and abroad. Alvaro Mordechai is also a promoter and coordinator of the group trips of the humanitarian organization Fraternity Without Borders. Thank you so much, Alvaro, for being here. And remember, everyone, to please send your questions because we will be opening for questions after his talk. So now it's with you, Alvaro. May God bless you.
Okay, thank you very much. So today we're going to talk about the history of Noah. I'm almost 100% sure that each and every one of us had at least once listened to the history of Noah. We know that very shortly it's a guy that listens to the voice of God, and this man called Noah, he should build a big ark, a big ship. And in this ship, he would take his family and he would take a couple of each animal in the planet. By this way, there would have great the look in the planet Earth, and life would be decimated from the face of Earth. So in this way, we understand that probably we can find some nonsense information here, and many points of this are unintelligible. But according to what Allan Kardec is saying to us in the Gospel according to the Spiritism, in the introduction, when he's talking about the objective of his work, Allan Kardec is saying to us that these texts from the Old Testament, from the Bible itself, and many other sacred authors are unintelligible and nonsense many times. And by this way, he's saying for us that this looks nonsense because there's a lack of a key. And this key can be found in the Spiritism. And Allan Kardec will say to us that we can find Spiritism on ancient times in many writings, in many monuments, in the theogonies, in the beliefs of ancient civilizations. And for us, our job here today, what we are going to try to do, it's actually to put the light of the Spiritism and to bring some new sense. We will try to renovate what we can understand from this story. So let's start this story that is contained on the Old Testament in the first book, Genesis. Let's start this with this light of the Spiritism, bringing the chapter 9 from the book Genesis, Miracles and Predictions according to the Spiritism. And we will see what Allan Kardec is talking to us about this biblical deluge when he's talking about the revolutions of the globe. And it's very surprising that Allan Kardec will say to us that this great deluge, it's also known by the Great Asiatic Deluge, and it's a fact that cannot be contested. It means that this deluge really happened. So first of all, it's a surprise for us because all this story looks very nonsense, but we will see that in a metaphorical way with explicit facts that really happen, the story altogether will bring to us very nice understanding. So Allan Kardec will say that we can find many facts that will support the theory that this deluge really happened. And the first of these facts is that we can find geological observation. We can find a sea that it's an inland sea. This is the Black Sea in Asia. And we will find that this Black Sea, according to Allan Kardec, according to what Allan Kardec is telling us, it's a geological fact that we can understand that in some time, in some period of the history of Earth, there was a great deluge. And it's left there this sea, the Black Sea, that it's an inland sea. So here we are going to see that actually we have few other facts that will contribute to understanding why this deluge really happened. And we will see that we can find in many theogonies of ancient civilizations that this deluge all really happened. And in which civilization we can find this? We can find this by the Sumerian, and we can find tablets of clay where is registered the Epic of Gilgamesh. And the Epic of Gilgamesh will tell us a story that it's very, very much similar to the history of the Old Testament, the history of Noah, and it will also talk about this great deluge. And we will find, actually, with the ancient Indians in the book of Vedas, we will find that the time for the solution of the universe has arrived to the planet, and for that, there would have a great deluge. And with this great deluge, a specific guy should build a very great ship, but he would have to take from the nature seeds of each vegetable that we find in the planet. And he would take this and he would be in his ship for a long, long, long time. And after a long time, he would arrive to the top of the Mount Himalaya. And we will find this also, of course, with the ancient Egyptian civilization. And we will find that the Egyptian priests, they would have all the story of the deluge, and it was transmitted for their disciples. And here, it's the interesting fact that Allan Kardec is bringing to us, because we know that Moses, he was born as a slave in ancient Egypt, and he was put inside a small ark, a very small ark, in the river, in the Nilo River. And Sometime after he's floating on the river Nilo, his mother, that she would adopt him, her name is Batia or Tarmuz in the language of the ancient Egyptians. She would see that kid and she would adopt him as a son, and she would give the most special education that the princess of the Egypt could give for her son. So Moses would learn with these priests, these high priests, Egyptian priests, and he would learn all the story of the great Delug that we find also by the name of the great Asiatic Delug. So by this way, we understand that Moses would teach, would tell the story for the Jewish people, and it would arrive on the pages of the book of Genesis on Old Testament. But the very interesting information that is being given by Allan Kardec, it's actually that this Delug was not something that happened all over the world, but it occurred on a specific point of Asia, in a small portion of the planet. And for this small portion of the planet, because the civilization were living there, the Sumerians, that is the first civilization on Earth, actually, they didn't have the specific knowledge to control all the planet, and probably they didn't know exactly the size of the planet. So, because this deluge happened in a great area of Asia, the Sumerians would tell the story of the deluge as being an universal deluge, as being occurred on the whole planet Earth. So here we find theogonies, we find geological facts, but actually we need here some scientific facts to improve, to make it even more secure that we can actually say that there was this great deluge. And we will find a very interesting fact that Allan Kardec brings to us, that is the precession of the equinox. And this precession of the equinox, it's the gradual change of the obliquity of the axis on planet Earth. Planet Earth is spinning, but it also has a conical movement. And this conical movement, every 25,000 years, will bring an inclination toward the sun, and we will have more or less direct rays from the sun. By this way, we will have difference on the sea level in many, many places of Earth. And this was well known by the Egyptian, by the Babylons, by the Hebrew people, and it will give on their theogonies the belief that the planet Earth was going through different moments that they call era of Iris, era of Pisces, era of Aquarius. So every 25,000 years, our planet is spinning as a conical movement into the axis of planet Earth, and this is called the precession of the equinox. And by this, we do understand that we have geological facts. We have facts spread over different ancient civilizations, and we do have here scientific explanation that we can understand that actually there is not something that could not be true. Of course, we do know that we cannot read all these stories in a very literal way. We have to explore the spiritual meaning, the metaphorical meaning of the text. And for this, now I will say the history of Noah, and after that we will explain some interesting facts by the light of the Spiritism. First of all, God instructs Noah. So the instruction of God comes by the mediumistic way. We understand that it's not God actually talking to Noah, but spirits are talking through his mediumistic way. And these spirits are going to say that, Noah, you are the only righteous man in planet Earth. All planet Earth is consumed by violence, is consumed by corruption, and by this way, you should build a large, very large wooden ark. We call it in Hebrew teva, and you should build a very large wooden teva ark. And in this ark, you will shelter your family, and you should take a couple of each animal we do have in the planet. So let's say you should take a couple of male and a female of a rabbit, of sheep, of cows, and lions, and leopards, and flies, and butterflies, and birds, and each and every animal we do have in Earth. Only from the pure species, and we will talk and explain later what's this pure species, you should take 7 couples. 7 couple of sheep, cows, that we will understand later. And after this, you will see that rain will fall into the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And as the text says, it happened like this. After 40 days of very strong rain, 40 nights, we will find Noah with his sheep for 150 days in this ark, and he would arrive on Mount Ararat, and he would just go out from his ark after 365 days, a complete solar year. And by this way, when he goes out from his ark, he would build a very great altar, and he would make sacrifice to God. Before going out from his ark, how he would know in 150 days that he was just seeing water, how he would know that actually the deluge was getting over. He knew because he took some doves and he released it. One of these doves comes with a small piece of wood from an olive tree, and then he knew that actually it was going to be over. After 365 days, when he goes out from his ark and he's making this sacrifice to God, there would be a promise from God to Noah. And this promise to Noah, it would be that planet Earth would never be destroyed again by God. We will not see, according to what is being told to us in the Old Testament, we will never see any kind of apocalypse that would destroy planet Earth. And this is very interesting because apocalypse is, in Greek, has the meaning of revelation, to take out the veil. So we understand that what is written in the Old Testament, it's what is brought to Allan Kardec on the posthumous work of Allan Kardec. Why? Because there we will find that the apocalypses will not happen in planet Earth by destruction, but actually it would occur, it would happen in planet Earth by changing the generations. So new spirits would be born, and old spirits would not reincarnate anymore in planet Earth. And by this way, we would renew the moral code and we would renew our science. So by this way, we understand that the rainbow, that it's the symbol which is written, that whenever we would see, when there was rain, when we see rain and we see a rainbow, it's the symbol of the pact that God made with Noah, saying to us that we don't need to have any kind of preoccupation. We don't need to worry about apocalypses with destruction of our planet. But there are many other facts that we can find here. By example, the cycle of 40 days and 40 nights, there were rain. So, of course, we do understand that for 40 days and 40 nights, it's not enough rain for making such a great deluge. So let's understand here. This number 40, it's a cycle, it's a symbol and not specifically a measure of time in the Old Testament. We will find that Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. We will find that the Jewish people were 40 years in the desert. We will find that Jonah, the prophet, Jonah the prophet, he actually was walking for 40 days and 40 nights. So each and every time we do see in the Old Testament, in the Bible, this number 40, we are actually understanding that it's not a measure of time. It's just a measure, it's just a symbol that will say to us, okay, from this moment on, we are going to have a great changing planet, great change in the life of the prophet, great change in wherever we are reading. So here we understand that this water that was coming from the skies and also it was coming from the ground, according to the Old Testament. All this water that was going had a specific objective. What's the objective? The objective is to purify our planet because it was full of corruption and violence. So here we understand that the water will also be a symbol in the Old Testament and in the New Testament of purification. And from here, it will be born a great tradition for the Jewish people. It's the ritual bath of mikveh. I lived actually in Israel, and I have been there many, many times. And if we go to the temple that is destroyed, we will find there was a mikveh. If we go to old synagogues, we will find a mikveh. If we go to new synagogues, we will also find a mikveh. This is a tradition for the Jewish people. And actually, we see that someone would need to go inside the temple, would need to purify in this ritual bath that we call mikveh in Hebrew. And this tradition is born in this specifically part of the Old Testament. Because to build a mikveh, you need 40 measures of water, because there were 40 days and 40 nights. This measure of water, it's called seah. This 40 measure is 760 liters. So you cannot build a mikveh that doesn't has at least 760 liters of water. But actually, there's something more specifically that you have to use a natural source of water. So you will have to use the water of the rain, or the water of the sea, or the water of a river. And you cannot use the water that is coming from a pump, let's say, from pipes. You cannot use the water from pipes. You have to use from a natural source of water that you know which one of these is actually the source of the water. So we will find that in this Jewish tradition, the specifically point of this is to purify your soul, because we have to understand that if we have free will, we can choose how we live our life, and by choosing right or wrong, we are approaching to God, we are coming closer to God, or we are getting far from God. We are choosing to follow God's will, or we are just going away from God's will. And by going away from God's will, we get more and more impure. So when a Jewish person is going to this tradition, mikveh bath, the first and the most special point is that you have to renovate the purpose to attend to God's will. So you have to renovate the purpose of your life. So if you are impure, now you will have to renovate your life, the purpose of your life. The tradition itself is just a tradition, but the spiritual meaning, it's a very strong meaning for us. And from this Jewish tradition, we will see that it's born a Christian tradition. And we will see John the Baptist on the Jordan River, that it's a natural source of water that has more than 40 CA, 760 liter, and he will call people that they should change their behavior. They should now go into his baptism, how it's called in the Christianity, and they should renovate their souls. So this tradition for Christianity, it's born on the passage of Noah in the Old Testament. But it's very interesting, and we can go even further in a more spiritual, deeper spiritual meaning. Because if we think that God created all spirits simple and unaware, it's meaning from the lack of knowledge, and we were created simple and unaware, and we should evolve till the point that we are going to be pure spirits. We will achieve purity as spirits. How we do this? How can we make this evolution? We need to reincarnate many, many times in this planet. And in this planet, we will find more than 70% of water. It's called planet water. So our planet, it's the place where our spirits are making the journey of the purification. But actually, when we are going to be born, we are inside of our belly's mother, and we will go inside the amniotic liquid. And actually, when we are born, we are in a body that is compounded at least with 70% of water. So we do understand that this spiritual journey of purification, it has a specific point for us, and we do understand that is true. The water will be a very specific symbol for us in the Old Testament, in the New Testament of purification, and it all comes from the history of Noah. But why the humanity was so strong with violence and corruption? We see in the history of Old Testament before this that Adam and Eve, they had a son, two sons actually. One was Cain and the other one was Abel. And Cain killed Abel. And Cain was a very terrible man, and Abel was a very righteous man. So by this way, the strong of Cain, the transmission of his moral code that was not a strong one, it was actually a terrible one, was transmitted to the population of the world. So what is telling us the great rabbis from the Old Testament? They are telling us that Adam and Hava, of course, and Eve, of course, it's a metaphorical story. We are not going to talk a lot about this today because there's no time. But we will find that Adam and Eve, they had another son. And this other son, the great rabbis of the Old Testament, will say that this is the reincarnation of Abel. And Noah, it's a generation that descended from this righteous man that was the reincarnation of Abel. When comes all this great deluge, and comes all this rain, and comes all this water to the world to purify, it decimated all the generations that came from Cain. And as we see, all this violence and corruption would be purified through water. We can understand that humanity would be purified by the reincarnation. But interesting, okay, I can understand few points, but there are many other points in this story that it's actually still nonsense. Let's talk about this ark. How is it possible that we will have a couple of each and every animal in planet Earth living all together inside the boat, inside the ship, inside an ark? Okay, let's understand about this. And according to the Old Testament, the Ark of Noah had 3 floors. In the first floor, we will find where were living all these animals. The second floor, it's where Noah would save food for all these animals and for his family. And in the third floor, the higher floor, it's where his family were living. Noah was living just in the third floor with his family. So here, how can we explain? And for explaining this, we will use actually the chapter 10 from Genesis, Miracles and Predictions According to the Spiritism. Because we will see there how it's the evolution of the intelligent principle. And we will find that the intelligent principle will gain the vital fluid. We will see that the intelligent principle will make a very, very long way on evolution in the organic aspects. So here we will see that life in our planet will start with very simple kind of life, and it will gain complexity with the evolution of the intelligent principle. So I can say that my intelligent principle was once gain all what we call unreasoned acts, all the instincts, by making a very long journey through all the evolution of the species in our planet. Yes, we can say. So by this way, I can say that in my anemic evolution, I do have a couple of each and every animal. Okay, now it makes sense. And this is exactly what we will find in the book Greater World, in the Psychography of Chico Xavier by André Luiz, when he's talking about the mental house of Calderario. Because he will say to us that the mental house of Calderario has also 3 floors. And the first floor is exactly like the first floor of the Ark of Noah, where we do have here the habits, the base of our instincts, the unreasoned acts. So I'm thinking now, I'm blinking, my heart is beating, and I'm having in my body many things that actually are unreasonable. I'm not thinking for my heart to beat. It's just happening. But this was a conquest of my spirit through billions of years of evolution. And this is the first floor of the Ark, and this is the first floor of Calderario's mental house. The second floor, we will find where is the food. And in the mental house of Calderario, we will find as the base of our present domain, where we are building our present with our own efforts. So, okay, why food? Because food is a need of our daily needs. We have many needs that can be linked to passions, and it can become trials, it can become atonements for how we deal with this in our daily journey. If I do the right choice with my free will and I try to manage this in my daily life, I am doing the right thing and I'm getting connected to the third floor of the Ark, where is Noah family. And in the third floor of Mental House of Calderario, we will find the superior mental notions, where we build our spiritual elevation. So here we will see that this is only placed for human life. Because when my intelligent principle is not yet individualized, I'm just busy with achieving, in conquesting, actually, my biological evolution. After I individualize my intelligent principle and I become a spirit with bigger S, with bigger letters, a spirit, and I gain conscience, then from this moment on, I will need to make evolution with my moral codes and actually with my intelligence. So by this way, we do understand that this is something in our planet, that it's a possession, that it's a right for human species. That's why just the family of Noah were in the third floor of the Ark. Sometimes we go to other floors of our ark. And we are understanding that this ark is actually the meaning of being incarnated. When I'm incarnated, I'm on an ark, on a boat, in this giant world of water, in a body of water, and I need to manage my life through these 3 floors of my mental house. And it's interesting because, as I said, Moses was also inside an ark. It was a bulrush and bitumen ark, small ark. Okay, but we can find Yonah the prophet also inside an ark. And we do have a lecture where we explain the life in English, that we explain about this ark and what's the meaning and how it comes to the meaning of the reincarnation, of being incarnated in this world. So here, it's not something that we can find in the Old Testament. We will find other arks, other boats, other ships in the New Testament. By example, on the chapter 13 of Matthew Gospels. What do we find there? In the beginning of chapter 13, we will find that Jesus went out from his home and he went actually to a boat on the Sea of Galilee. And from there, when he's inside the boat, everybody that was in this shore could see him, could listen to his teachings, and he would open his mouth saying the words, teaching humanity. So first thing we think, okay, I know. Jesus, when he was at Capernaum, the city of Capernaum, he was living in the house of Peter. Okay, so he went out from the house of Peter and he goes to a boat. But actually, there's a spiritual way of understanding this, much deeper way. How? We do understand that Jesus is a completely pure spirit. And pure spirits, we know that they don't need to incarnate in this planet. They don't need reincarnation. So they actually, where there is the home of pure spirits? The spiritual world. So Jesus is coming to a boat in our planet. So it means that he's going to incarnate. For what meaning? To teach us, to say his words. And as the parable says, for us, those who have ear can listen, and those who want to see can see him. So it doesn't matter which point of the shore we are in this planet. If we really want, we can look through Jesus and we can see what he taught humanity through his examples, through his living, and through what he explained to us. So this is a different way of understanding the ark. And actually, there is something that the great rabbis are telling us in the Judaism about this ark. Because the first question we can say, if we did have a fox and a rabbit, okay, there would be a very great mess in this ark. Okay, a lion and a sheep. Okay, great mess again. An alligator, a crocodile, and some other animal. Okay, we will have, as we say in Hebrew, balagam. We will have a big mess. But the great rabbis says to us that the spirit of the Messiah was in that ark. And when we do have the spirit of the Messiah, all the animals will be very, very quiet. And actually, this is a prophecy of Isaiah on chapter 11, verse 6 and 7. He will say to us that when the spirit of the Messiah will completely be in this planet, we would see that the wolf will live with the lamb, and the leopard will lay down with the goat, the calf and the lion, and the yearling together, and a little child will lead them. So we do see here that what Prophet Isaiah is saying to us is that the Spirit of the Messiah can come down. All this animality that we can find into our anemic evolution. We are not talking about the living of Jesus in this world. We are talking about bringing the kingdom of heaven to our hearts, to our soul. If we do this, we can equalize all this animality, all these instincts, all these passions, all this challenge we find into our spirit living in this world. In our mental health, it's a great challenge. And if we will achieve the most higher portions where we get connected to God, we will equalize all this animality. So this is the meaning of all this animal being together, living in peace. Sometimes we are very hungry, and we are just living as a lion and screaming like a monkey or whatever. Or if we want something bad for some other people, we are like a snake. But all this will be equalized with the kingdom of heaven, with the Spirit of the Messiah really living into our soul. So after this, we will see that Noah would go down from his ark and he would build an altar and he will make many sacrifices. First of all, what would he sacrifice? Second of all, what's the purpose of making sacrifices? We do understand that God created the universe, the whole universe. So how can I offer to God something that's material? God created the whole universe. If I give this, let's say, a glass, what's a glass for God? If I give wine, if I give animals, God is the creator of life. So there's no purpose on this. So here, they specifically point that we can find in the sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice that should be done in this material world. Not sacrificing animals, but we should sacrifice. Not in an altar or in a temple that it's built with stones, with wood, with concrete. Because God is the creator of the whole universe. It's actually a joke to offer something to God that is material. So what's the purpose? The purpose is to make sacrifice into the altar of our hearts, in the altar of our souls, so I can sacrifice my animality. But actually, I can sacrifice much more than this. I can sacrifice my egoism. I can make many sacrifices that it's not material. But this will be accepted to God, and this will make that I will be more closer to God, or God will be more closer on my soul. I understand that actually the word sacrifice in Hebrew, it's korban. It comes from the word karov. It means to approach, to get closer. So when you are doing a sacrifice, not a sacrifice of an animal, a sacrifice in the altar of your heart, you are approaching God, to making God's will, and to live your own egoistic need in that moment. So in this way, we do find and we do understand here what's the purpose of making sacrifice in this history of Noah. And we said that there were a couple of each animal, a male and a female, but the pure animals, that this purity is the purity according to the book of Leviticus, where we will find pure species of animals, that where we will understand what's pure and what's impure. But why do we have 7 couple of pure animals and the other impure? We do have just one. It's because as potentialities, we do have much more potentiality of being image of God, of being developing our spiritual evolution, than to be unpure by the example of this passage, and by the example, what is being told about these pure animals and these impure animals. Just to understand, a pure animal, it's a dove, that it's very kind, that it's a very sweet. It's a sheep, that it's very sweet, very kind. So here we understand that we are we do have many potentialities into our spirit to develop the spirit that are here a metaphorical way to understand these animals. But there is something here that I find out as a very interesting thing. And this is a verse 11 on chapter 7 in this book of Genesis in Old Testament. We will find that in this verse, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of that month, on that day, all the fountains of great deep burst forth, and the window of heaven were opened. What's the meaning of this verse? So here we will understand what these great rabbis of the Judaism are saying about this verse. And we do see that Emmanuel is saying to us that there's a group inside the Jewish people that they would understand and they would transmit the spiritual knowledge, the spiritual meaning of the Old Testament to their disciples, that they would become great rabbis also. And what's the meaning of this verse? I will read it again. In the 600th year of Noah's life, first of all, we understand that it's metaphorical because no one lives 600 years. Okay. In the second month of the 7th day of the month, this is the day where the windows of heaven were opened. Okay. What can we learn from this? The great rabbis are saying to us that it's actually talking about the 6th century of the 6th millennium. So the first millennium, it would go from the year 0 to year 1000. Then we find 1001 being second millennium, 2001 second millennium, 3001 third millennium. So 6001 sixth millennium. Okay, I understand. But it's saying in the 6th century, first millennium, year 1, second millennium, year 2, year 1 of the second millennium. So here the rabbis are saying to us that 6th millennium is on the 600th year, is the year 5600. But our calendar, we are in the year 2022. Okay, but in the Jewish calendar, we are actually in the year 5781. Okay, so what's the meaning? When it's about and what would happen? This is a prophecy according to the great rabbis. It's a prophecy that is saying that in the year, about the year 5600, there would open the windows of heaven to earth. So we would see the teaching of the spiritual world being accessible to all human beings. So by this way, we understand that this year, 5600 will be about 18,050, 51, 52, 55, 57. So it's when was happening the turning tables, the Heinz-View phenomena. It's when we will see that the book of spirits is coming to earth. So actually, we understand here that what rabbis are telling us about 2,000 years ago, we find this in the Zohar. About 2,000 years ago, is that in the era that we see that the Spiritism is being born in planet Earth, it's when the knowledge of the heavens, of the spirits, would be accessible to each and every one of us. And this is a very nice way of understanding, because When we are talking about knowledge, we will find 3 levels according to the wisdom of the Jewish people. First level, let's say that I don't know about any moral code and I just live my life. But then comes a man, and this missionary, brings into my life a moral code, and he will present. And this is the base of all justice in planet Earth. This man is Moses. It's the greatest prophet we see in the Old Testament. We can see in the Old Testament. So he's bringing a moral code to planet Earth. First level of knowledge we find in the Judaism. What's the second level? It's when you are going to be explained by many, many, many prophets, and they will tell you how you have to behave. And after this comes a second man, Jesus. And he will teach us how to live the moral code that his prophets brought to the planet Earth. When we will see and we will listen once again, and we will understand the doubts that we had. But more important than just listening is to see the example, to see how Jesus lived his life in this difficult world and how he behaved into his life. This is the second level of knowledge. Because in the second level of knowledge, now you understand deeply what you have to do. And the third level of knowledge, when is this knowledge so much greater into your life, it's so much intense that actually you live by these rules. And actually, this is part of your life. And you cannot take it anymore from your life or from your soul. This is the third. It's when the Spirit of the Messiah will be living in your spirit. Your spirit will be living with the Spirit of the Messiah. This is the third level. We call this in Hebrew, Chokhmah, Binah, and Dat. And by this way, we do understand what the Spirit Mordechai is saying to us in the Gospel according to the Spiritism. When he's saying, Moses showed the humanity the way. So it's the first level. He showed it. We didn't know that there was such a moral code. Okay, but no, now we know that we have to live with rules. Now we know that we have commandments, that we have rights, but also we have to behave ourselves in a specific way. Okay, then comes Jesus, and he will continue this work by showing through his example. Through this example, we will learn. And afterwards, this Spirit will say to us, the Spiritism will finish it. Why the Spiritism is going to finish it? Because the Spiritism is this era where the windows of heaven are being opened, and we do have the information, very great information about the spiritual life. And we will see that this change is happening all over the world, even through the science, even with the evolution of many, many, many other religions. And these facts about the spiritual world are becoming each and every day more easy to achieve. Those who has eyes can see. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in the United States or in Brazil or in Africa. If you want to listen, to see, and to understand, now you can bring it to your life. And you can understand that in your conscience, there's a code, that you can consult this each and every moment in trials, in expiations, in atonements. It doesn't matter what you are living into your life, what you did in the past, but from now on, you have ears to listen. You can see, and you can really finish the work that it's expected, as it's said for us in the portion of the Old Testament that is telling the history of Noah, because we understand that the water is coming to purify the world, the water of the reincarnation. And we are actually ready to be purified. But much more than this, now we can live with the spirit of the Messiah, that is the Spiritism, into this world. Now the windows, the doors are opening to the spiritual world, and we can live with this code. And now, just to finish, I will say, what was the plan of God for Noah? And Noah, actually, he built 7 laws. 7 laws, that these 7 laws in that time were very, very, very important for the evolution of our globe. And we will see that the first law of Noah, do not profane God's ownness in any way. God is one. God is the supreme intelligence, is the first cause of all things. So we cannot profanate. We cannot profanate God's ownness. God is one. Okay, second law of Noah, do not curse your creator. If you know that God is supreme intelligence, and you are making all the efforts you can do, and you are living in a difficult situation, don't curse God, because God's supreme intelligence, you have to have absolutely faith on divine providence. You have to believe that God is really taking care of you, and do not curse God. Third one, do not murder, because the value of a single human life cannot be measured. God created man and woman as his image. It means that if you kill someone, you are taking out the image of God that has a specific reason in this world. And the Talmud is saying to us that a person who kills one only person is destroying the whole world. And a person who is saving just one life is saving the whole world, the whole earth, the whole planet. Do not eat a limb of a living animal. Fourth commandment. And this is the respect for life and for all creations of God. We do understand here that we don't need to destruct all nature. We have to use a necessary destruction. We have to use necessary destruction in our lives. And we cannot cause pain to animals that it's not necessary. It's just saying about the respect that we have to have with all creatures in this world. 5, commandment number 5, do not steal. Why we should not steal? Because we understand that we are making our greatest efforts into our lives. And we do achieve what is necessary for our evolution. This supreme intelligence understands what we have to have into our hands. So you don't need to steal from any other person in this planet. Number 6, harness and channel of the human libido. We have to understand that the family unit is the foundation of the society, and the sexuality, it's actually the fountain of life. And there is nothing in this world that it's more holy than the sexual act. So we have to have respect for this. We cannot make incest, adultery, rape, or whatever. We cannot be addicted to this. We have to take good care of these energies. And 7 commandment, and last one to finish our talk today, it's about establishing courts of law and ensure justice of the world. Although we understand that in the past, probably we didn't have the laws that we have today that actually need to improve a lot. And it will be improved each and every day. As our moral in the world are going to evolve, we will change our laws to be more closer of the laws of the universe, the laws that were created to God. We do know that we will take a few thousand years, maybe that we will be understanding completely the laws of God. But we have to establish courts where we will try to make justice. And we do understand that all these people that were in the ancient times, they were very much problematic, not so far from what we are living, actually a little bit far, but we do understand that we need laws, we need courts, and we need to bring justice through our efforts to understand God's justice and bringing this to human justice. So this is the 7 laws of Noah, and this is the history that we can find and understand with few specifically talks, knowledge that we can find in the Spiritism, and we associate this with the knowledge of the Jewish people, we will find that this story that was very unintelligible and probably nonsense has a spiritual meaning, and actually it can help us to evolve in this planet. And we will find that the story of Noah, it's a great story. It's a great moment for reflection of what we are doing in this world and what's the purpose on being on this body of water, in this planet of water, and how we will make the journey of evolution into these 3 floors of the ark. We understand that the biblical Dialogue was a story that we have to understand in a metaphorical, spiritual way, but actually it's teaching many, many interesting things, at least for me. So here I finish my explanation. You have no voice. No voice.
That was incredible, Alvaro. That oh, okay. Patricia is here. Thank you so much. I got mine as well. This mug, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Ching ching.
Patricia de Hoyos, right?
Patricia de Hoyos. She's following us here today. Of course, she's glad to be with you, Alvaro. That was so amazing, so enlightening. We have wonderful comments and questions here. So let's not wait that much for to start with the questions. That's Patricia. Alvaro, when Noah doesn't follow the instructions of the order in which they should leave the ark, what's the spiritual meaning of it? Could we relate as a conscious that are awake but not really ready?
We do understand that we have many prophets, that Emmanuel says to us that the difference of prophets that are actually working in many other points of the evolution of our planet, as Socrates, as many others, the difference from the prophets of the Old Testament is that the prophets from the Old Testament, they are working in the evolution of the religious sense of our planet. So we do understand that all the prophets of the Old Testament were very special missionaries. They were very special spirits, but they are not completely pure. So we can understand, of course, that Noah had the spiritual work, spiritual meaning, spiritual mission in this planet. But he was not a very, very pure spirit. So he wouldn't, even if he is talking about the gods of law, even if he has a spiritual mission in this world, he's not completely awake. He's not completely pure as a spirit. So he would also, as many, many other prophets, he will have his mistakes into his journey into this planet. It brings us great collaboration from the Spirit, but it's also, we can see that they are these prophets, these missionaries of the Old Testament. They were not completely pure spirits.
Great, thank you. Let's see the next one. Fascinating talk. It is expected to occur something significant shift, any significant shift in humanity growth, in moral evolution or civilization in post-deluge periods. Was there a more fertile period or the opposite?
Was there a more fertile? I didn't understand the question.
Mhm.
Can you
I don't
explain,
know.
please?
I don't know if I could as well. Yasko, if you could put it back again, and then we go back to this question, okay? Wow, Paulo Craig says, what a realization about Noah and the ark. I would have never figured this out for myself reading the Bible. How come this is not taught correctly by ministers and teachers?
Paula, it's not that it's not taught in the correctly way, but actually it's wrong. It's taught in this way, but for a very specifically group inside the Jewish people. It's a very small percentage of Jews were studying the spiritual meaning of the texts. Nowadays, it's being taught for everybody because this life can be, everyone can listen to this live, can watch this live, and then we probably will get a new understanding from the history of Noah and the ark. It's a great history. It's a very interesting, for me at least, it's a very interesting way of understanding.
And you know, Alvaro, when I read this question, I was thinking um, how important it is at this moment to understand when we are talking about three revelations. It's like, you know, for us to understand the third revelation, we need the first and the second. And now the first and the second becomes more complete with the vision, with the perspective of Spiritism as well. And then we remember that Jesus said we did not come to destroy the law, right? But to reinforce it, and we see how everything is connected, and as humankind grow, the more of this understanding and revelations come through. So today, when like for instance, when she's saying about this aspect that you mentioned of the three levels that the spirit Calderaro presents in the book, in the greater world, it's so obvious, right? But it was not before, and it can only be obvious if you if you combine the three of them together, right? So that is really amazing, and I'm happy, Paula, that you really think like this. We all are thinking exactly the same. How much more? How we have to unveil things. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Yes, and it's interesting that Allan Kardec is saying to us that actually this meaning, it's each and every one of us can achieve. And Allan Kardec says that in the future, every one of us will understand this. But he
Mhm.
says to bring this light of the Spiritism into the texts, it
Mhm.
needs a lot of effort. And to
Mhm.
talk this for me in English, it's three times effort because it's very technical speaking and it's not something that we are using in our day. So it was a great challenge for me to try to bring some light with the Spiritism. This is not me who are bringing this. This is the Spiritism who is giving us the possibility to understand and to know that from now on, from day to day, more and more people will know the spiritual meaning of the Bible, the spiritual meaning of all this Old Testament, and not just the Old Testament, also other books from ancient civilizations, as I said, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tibetan Book of the Deaf, or the Egyptian Book of the Deaf. We can find this coming with a lot of spiritism. And from day to day, more people will study, and it will be easier for everyone. So maybe nowadays, yet, not everyone is listening the story of Noah as we told. But probably in 100, 200, 300 years, or a few thousand years, this will be a regular knowledge for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned we have to mention something as well. Alvaro, although he speaks English very well, he lives in Brazil. He's not, he's not in his day-to-day life. So thank you so much also for the effort, Alvaro, to share this knowledge with us, and in a language that is not a one that you use on your life on the daily basis. Okay, let's go to Veil Carex. Can you explain when you said the spirit of the Messiah was in the ark?
Yes.
Mhm.
What the great rabbis are telling us, it's what we call midrash in the Hebrew wisdom, in the knowledge of the Jewish people, in the tradition. This is the meaning. Let's remember that the prophet Daniel, he was inside a cave, and inside this cave where he was with lions, the lions didn't eat him. What's the meaning? It's also that the spirit of the Messiah was living in the heart, in the soul, in the spirit of the prophet Daniel. So here the prophet Daniel, it's not just alone. So the spirit of the Messiah would come down. All this angry that it's compared to the lion living inside us. In the anemic evolution, we do have here many times, as I said, that we just want to make a big mess, and we are living as, let's say, monkeys, as lions, as it's just a metaphorical way of understanding. So the spirit of the Messiah equalizes all this animality, all these passions, all these needs that we do have, and we will be living not as the anemic evolution is pushing us to, it's making us living in this material world, but we will be living with the equalization of the spiritual world in a material world. So the spirit of the Messiah in the ark is what will bring that the animals or the animality or the anemic evolution will be living all together in peace. It's important, all this anemic evolution into our spirit. But it's very important that this will not direct our lives, but the direction of our life will come from the connection to God and not from the connection to animality. So the spirit of the Messiah is the kingdom of heaven being stronger and stronger into our spirit. And this will equalize how we live our evolution in this planet. It's more clear.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Alvaro. Let's go on to another one. Now from Yasko. The first part is about the effect of delusion on moral and spiritual evolution of humans, and I think Alvaro responded. Second part was more about what happened to seeds, plantations, how they recovered after the deluge, if the civilization was affected.
It's deluge, not deluge. Sorry, it's a new word for me.
Yeah, deluge.
So this, yes, it's about this. We have different moments into the evolution of our planet, and Noah is one missionary, and he's bringing a revelation that it's for a specific people. He's bringing a revelation that it's for a specific period of time. When we see the three revelations that we talked, it's revelations for all over the world, for the whole planet. For Noah, had specifically purpose, but if he exists, we are saying that this is a story that brings very much spiritual understanding and teaching. That actually it's part of the organism of these people, these ancient civilizations that were living in Babylon, in Indian ancient civilization, in Egyptian civilization, and with the Hebrew people, it will come for the Jewish people, and afterwards through Moses, we can see that part of this commandments that it's given by Noah. It's part of them are in the 10 commandments. Do not murder, do not steal, the care that we have to have with the adultery, with the sexual energies that we have. So we do understand that first part, yes, it's about a missionary that comes to bring some new, to renew the moral of the planet, but in a specific way. The difference from him to, let's say, Jesus, to Moses, to Allan Kardec, is that in these three revelations, this knowledge is changing completely the psycho atmosphere of our planet. It's starting a new era for the whole planet. In this moment where Noah were living, we find that it's very much connected to the Adamic races. We find race, yeah, Adamic races. It's like this. We say, yeah, the Adamic races. So we understand that there's
Adam crisis or Adamic races. You say Adamic races. Let me say like.
Yeah. So we do understand that
Adamic races.
Adamic races.
Yes.
So we do understand that he has a very strong purpose with the Adamic races. And all the following revelations that are great revelations, it has a purpose for the whole world. It's clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to another one. Good morning. I ask this with all respect. How did you intertwine Spiritism with Judaism? You might have already answered this.
It's interesting because actually, if we are trying to find the spirit behind the letters, we will always find what Kardec says is the line of truth. That we can find the line of truth in many, many religions. And when we are talking specifically about first revelation, Moses, Judaism, we are actually finding the beginning of the evolution, where it's being born, the purpose of evolution of the religious sense for whole humanity. So here, actually, we were not, let's say, educated to find this. But if you try to find the spiritual meaning, it becomes not so difficult. You can find this line of the truth in the Judaism by using the knowledge of the Spiritism. I think I don't know if it was clear because yeah, it's clear, no?
Yeah, like you said, even today, when we expand our understanding, things becomes so close and intertwined, as you said, that it is no longer, a huge jump from one thing to the other, and it's mostly, using all of them together. That's why it is not so difficult. Of course, we always have to think about our inner dispositions. We have to be willing to do that without any kind of prejudice. And if there is no prejudice, we will realize how much there is in one, the other, and vice versa. Okay, I think we have another question. Alvaro, the Shema comes from Noah's laws, or it comes since the time of Abraham or Moses?
No, we can understand that the whole, what to say, Torah, the whole Jewish knowledge, wisdom, was in the life of Abraham. So Abraham was a monotheist, okay? But we cannot say that specifically he was praying by the Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Echad, that it's the verse of the book of the Deuteronomy. uh, Dvarim in Hebrew. He was not exactly making this prayer. It can be that actually he was doing, but we do understand that Abraham, he was a monotheist. And we can understand that Abel, in the history of Cain and Abel, Abel was a monotheist also. He had the knowledge of the monotheism. And we talked a little bit that Cain killed Abel, and Adam and Eve, that it's a metaphorical story once again, they had another son. This other son, that it will be the source of the generations of Noah, he was also a monotheist. It, he had this knowledge into his life. So the monotheism, we do see that it was spreaded through the world and through the whole civilizations of the world through the Jewish people. But if we notice in the book On the Way to the Light of Emmanuel, we will see that he's saying that the Egyptian civilization, they were also monotheist. The bigger part of the people, they were not monotheist because they needed something to pleasure their needs and understanding in a simple way from God. But the priests of the old Egyptian civilization, they were monotheists. They were living in a polytheistic culture, but Emmanuel will say to us that this polytheism, it's a polytheism that it's not straight. It's a metaphorical way of understanding one God through many symbols that becomes gods with minor g.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we understand that Noah, yes, he was a monotheist. He was a monotheistic guy. We are sure about this, but not actually that he was praying the Shema, that he was saying the words of the Shema. He was a polytheist, a monotheistic guy. He had one God, and he tried to transmit this to the world. But the Spiritists will say to us that this just happened through the Judaism, through Moses, through the prophets, and it spread it all over the world.
This is a beautiful prayer that we have. And in English, it means, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." So it's really beautiful. So I think that will be all for today. We still have some other questions, but we don't have more time. And we want to thank Alvaro very much, and remember you that every Saturday at 11 we have this Saturday series of talks, and starting tomorrow, we are very happy, very excited to announce that we are going to be having this course, Initiation into Spiritism. It will be a series of 40 lives talking about Spiritism as codified by Allan Kardec, according to the codification. We will use as basis for this studies the book by Teresinha Oliveira that was translated into English, and you can find it on our website. And this course is meant to all audiences, regardless of previous knowledge about Spiritism or spirituality, and sympathizers in general, because it deals with several contemporary topics with clarity and depth. So the program is very, very good. Every Sunday at 10 a.m. So we will continue with our talk series Saturdays at 11 and Sundays at 10 Eastern Time. we will have this course, Initiation into Spiritism, an effort that was put together and we will have guests from all over the US that is going to be responsible for each of the classes. So it's going to be very interesting. Don't miss it, okay? And with that, we thank you very much for all of you that are participating. Once again, thank you so much, Patricia. It's been, I was very happy I got that 2 days ago. And we will invite you all again to our prayer. And thank you, Alvaro, my godson, my beautiful godson. We pray to God that we may be bestowed more opportunities such as this one. There is so much we need to learn and to understand about the beauties of the creation and us as creatures that have been roaming this planet for so long, that in this way we will be more capable of understanding our purpose in life and develop and grow, spiritually speaking, each time more. May we feel the blessings. May we feel the embrace of the good spirits, protection, guidance, health for us and our loved ones. And we see you again next Saturday.